We are loved beyond measure. At some point, you just have to trust her. She loves you more than you will ever know. She wants us to love one another.
Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Priestess at the Altar, Sunday morning message. And it occurred to me that Priestess at the Altar should, in fact, be at an altar. I have several altars in my home, and but most of them are in front of or under a window, which doesn't lend itself to good recording lighting. So I rearranged one altar and split it in half. So there's an altar in front of me, and now there's an altar behind me. So going forward, Sunday morning, Priestess at the Altar will be here. This will be your backdrop. I might change out the tapestry once in a while because I have a handful of those. The other thing that's new this morning that I'm kind of experimenting with, and I would actually like some feedback on. So, when I did a little kind of a teaser for this series, I talked about how one of the reasons I wanted to do this was because I was, nostalgic for my own childhood. And one of the few things that I actually liked about going to church and being kind of preached at when it was, a good message about love and compassion and, these values that I hold in my life today. So I'm wearing what is kind of, or at least what I hope looks like, a vestment stole. And I kind of wanted to just, you guys are like my test market for that. So it's either going to be triggering and remind you of your childhood priest who you hated, or who came on to you at your confirmation, or you know what I mean, or who told you you were going to hell because you were a lesbian or something, or, and this is what I'm hoping for, it's groovy to see someone in something that looks like a vestment stole, sort of preaching to you about the good word, of the goddess and the goddess's love. So I really hope that you leave me some comments in the YouTube chat. This is a live premiere, so I can see what comments you're posting about, like, a yay or nay to this sort of vestment stole, because I did see that there's a shop on Etsy that makes custom vestment stoles, so I could get one with, images of the goddess or angels or, whatever. I could get Ellen of the Ways or the Lithuanian sun goddess or snakes or whatever, you know what I mean? So anyway, let me know what you think. Yay or nay, or kind of arbitrary, you don't really give a shit. So yeah, just let me know. There you go. Vestment stole and cursing like a sailor and rapping about the goddess. So there you go. All in one place. So Sacred Sundays with Kelly, Priestess at the Altar, Sunday morning message. So let's get started with our usual prayer. I want you to just take 3 deep cleansing breaths with me to center yourself in through the nose and out through the mouth. Let's get ready. Let's do that again. Okay. It is our love and our passion, our faith that brings us here, where we can spend just a little time to commune, to be still, to feel the life force of human connection, which also connects us to her. Just imagine for a moment a silver thread that connects everyone who watches or listens to this video today from different places at different times all over the world. For we have been drawn, sorry about that, for we have been drawn together in the light and the peace and the love of the goddess. And together, we all say, Amen Dea. Thank you. So today's message, hang on a second. Today's message comes to you from the book, The Spirituality of Imperfection, Storytelling and the Search for Meaning by Ernest Kurtz and Katherine Ketcham. And this is in chapter 10, called A Pervasive Spirituality. Excuse me. And this book is largely about 12-step spirituality. Some years ago, a student of 12-step spirituality offered a presentation at the newly established Renewal Center at Hazelden, one of the oldest and most renowned centers for the treatment of alcoholism and other chemical dependencies. As he was laboring to make his point about the pervasive nature of spirituality, one of the participants asked for an image to help her picture the word. What is it like? She asked, her expression earnest and intent. I think I understand what you mean, but can you give me a picture of spirituality? Momentarily stumped, the presenter sat for several frustrating minutes, staring across the conference lounge at the massive stone fireplace, so carefully fashioned out of rock deposited in the locality during Minnesota's glacial era. Late afternoon sun streamed into the room, warming the stones with light. Suddenly, the stones themselves came into focus. Perhaps he could use them for an image. The deep reddish rocks, flecked with golden specks, the green-hued pieces, irregularly marbled in white, the many shaded blue slabs, their shallow niches sparkling as if with silver. Which of these stones could best represent the spiritual? Physical, mental, spiritual, the phrase reverberated in his mind, but which of these rocks provided the best image for each of those realities? The workshop participants, ever polite and patient, shifted quietly in the rare silence. Then suddenly the image came, looking at the stones, wondering at their beauty. The presenter's vision made one of those gestalt switches, and he saw not the individual stones, but the chimney itself. The mortar, the bland, grayish, pebbly stuff that held all those stones together, that was the spiritual. The spiritual is not some separate category, one specific type of stone or a particular stone of great beauty, but the substance that holds everything together. Spirituality is like that mortar in the fireplace, he offered pensively, finally breaking long silence. Just as the mortar makes the chimney a chimney, allowing it to stand up straight and tall, beautiful in its wholeness, the spiritual is what makes us wholly human. It holds our experiences together, shapes them into a whole, gives them meaning, allows them and us to be whole. Without the spiritual, however physically brave or healthy or strong we may be, however mentally smart or clever or brilliant we may be, however emotionally integrated or mature we may be, we are somehow not all there. So when I was mulling over this reading this morning, it occurred to me that, to others, it's obvious to others when it is perceivable by others to the naked eye when we are unwell physically. And it's pretty clearly obvious when we are very mentally unwell. And if you think about every insult known to us, it is an insult of the physical or the mental. Fatty, stupid, incompetent, slow, chubby, overweight, rail thin, flat-chested, not the brightest bulb in the box. Now, if you have a strong relationship with your goddess, you have a strong relationship with yourself. And you have a confidence and a quiet strength about you. Though you may be disappointed that people are mean-hearted because of their own insecurities, you're not bothered by these insults so much. Your feelings may be a little hurt, but it doesn't stop you in your tracks. You can get on with this business of living because you know that they are spiritually sick. And they're lashing out at you from a feeling of unworthiness. And you have compassion for them because they don't know that there is a third way that you can be sick, the way that they are sick. They don't know that you can be spiritually sick. They don't know that if they really wanted to insult you, they could say, man, you need to go pray and meditate because you are not right today. There's on the beam and off the beam, and you are way off the beam today, my friend. That's what they mean when they say, you got up on the wrong side of the bed, because if you got up on the right side of the bed, you would have prayed and meditated this morning. You would have asked the goddess for help throughout your day. That when you faced insecurity or indecision or your own temper, or you were tempted to be angry, to be judgmental, right? That you could ask her in the morning to help you resist the pull of those things that make you not like you, right? She loves you and she wants you to love you, right? She wants you to love everybody else, but first she wants you to love you. So that spiritual part that mortar in the fireplace that cracks, then you become the insulter rather than the insulted. And you know this, right? We all know it, right? We all know it. Like when somebody says to you, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? Do you just want to smack the shit out of that person? You know what the answer is. But we forget. We forget. It's why we pray and meditate every day, because we forget. So daily prayer and meditation keeps the mortar intact because we know that we forget. So we pray and meditate every day just to remind ourselves, oh, that's right. There's a goddess. She wants me to love myself. Oh, right, right. And then we set forth on our day. Because if you're walking around irritated and irritable, if you're walking around, first of all, if you're walking around irritated and irritable, it means you are disconnected. That's the other reason we pray and meditate, to maintain our connection to her. Because when we are disconnected, whether you know it or not, everyone in your vicinity, everyone in your hula hoop, right, in your energy hula hoop feels that. Everyone feels that. Whether they're empathetic, whether they're close to you, I guarantee you, the cashier at your grocery store feels your disconnection. You know, to varying degrees, depending upon how sensitive people are. Those highly empathic people, of course, they're going to feel it the most. But I mean, don't you want nobody to feel it? Right? I mean, it shouldn't. That shouldn't matter. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it does matter to you. Maybe it doesn't. I'm not telling you what to do. That's not my. That's not my place. Your spiritual life is your own, right? But it does mean that when we are disconnected, myself included, I am a little ball of negative energy just rolling around in the lives of others. At least that's how I see myself. So how do we remain spiritually well aside from prayer and meditation? All I can do is share. It's what I do every Sunday, right? I share my own experience, and you can take that and make it your own or come up with your own thing, whatever. Just do what works for you. I don't know about you, but even after all this time, I suddenly get this real rebellious streak, right? Like I just do not want to do what I know is good for me. I have a very long history of finding something that works for me and then going, that thing I started doing, that's really working for me. I think I'm going to stop doing that. And I don't know if it's just my very old penchant for self-abuse that I'm still getting over, but if I'm just a bit off, prayer meditation seems like a chore. I'm a creative person, so generally by the time I get from the bedroom to the coffee mug, ideas are already brewing. So sometimes I want to skip prayer meditation just because I'm excited about a new idea and I'm going to get to it and I'm going to work on it. And I think prayer meditation, I'm doing service to the goddess. Everything's for her. I just want to get to this idea so that I can show it to her. But then I have to remind myself that my creativity is a gift from her. That is the goddess's. My creativity is an example of the goddess's grace in my life. So if I skip that prayer and meditation, guess what? That creative streak will quickly come to an end. I am only where I am at today, and I would go out on a limb and suggest maybe you are only where you are at today, if you're content in your life, because of prayer and meditation, and because I care about my conscious connection to her. Because I've spent a long time praying and meditating every single morning. I've missed some, I really have, but particularly in this last year, that has been a daily practice, as has writing. I write every morning, not a lot, sometimes a lot, but usually not a lot. And I write a form of a gratitude list every morning. Having a perception of gratitude is a miracle, and it really does change everything. I know that sounds so simple, but most spiritual solutions are simple at their core. I feel like I'm kind of rambling today. I'm so sorry. So I have this list of how else do we maintain our spirituality? How else do we maintain that mortar, that keystone, right? That has to be firmly in place for all other things in our spiritual life to flow. At least that's how it is for me. Service. I've talked about this before, being a service to other people, whatever that looks like for you. I encourage you to find service opportunities that you actually like doing. My very first service that I threw myself into was volunteering at the animal shelter because I love animals. And it didn't require anything from me other than to show up, right? I was a volunteer cat socializer, and then I graduated to being a volunteer dog walker. And for years, I did just that. Held the cats, walked the dogs. Held the cats, walked the dogs. And then I did some other stuff like administrative stuff and whatever, you know what I mean? And I volunteered at the Humane Society. I was a rape crisis counselor. I was a certified rape crisis counselor. I was a certified domestic violence counselor. I've worked at a soup kitchen. We sponsored a family in Pine Ridge Reservation, and I talked about that in another episode. You know what I mean? Like, I've done all kinds of stuff, some for very short periods of time, some I did for years. You know, whatever your thing is, just go out and be of service. And yes, you know, the classic, you know, helping the old lady across the street, that is service. You could just take little opportunities to be of service whenever and wherever you can. Random acts of kindness, that is being of service. And random acts of kindness is even better, because then you're learning humility, right? Because you're not even taking credit for the service that you've done. Service also hones our compassion, which is one of the greatest gifts that the goddess has given us in a world that is sorely lacking compassion. In these days, at least that's what I see. I think the more compassion we can muster and the more service we can do, the better off we are. And, you know, service is one of those things that, right, there's this theological debate. Is there any such thing as a truly selfless act? Because acts of service do make us feel good about ourselves. So there's still something in it for us, right? But that's a debate for the theologians. Make simple tasks a meditative act. If anybody is familiar with Buddhism, that's not going to be new to you, right? A lot of Buddhist teachings talk about things like, you know, washing the dishes and you feel the water run over your hands, and and, and making that a meditative act. Anything can be a meditative act. You just take the opportunity to breathe and to be still. Journal. Journaling is a meditative act, and I already talked about appreciation and gratitude. And like meditation, it's something I sometimes resist, but then I remember how much it's done for me. Like when I journaled every day for a year, I was like, holy shit, I am so much better off than I was a year ago, like emotionally and spiritually. And particularly with journaling, I mean, like you would not believe what just falls out of me when I put pen to paper. And I heard somebody say a long time ago at a conference, I write to get right, and through the pen, I see the light. And I've never forgotten that. And I think about that sometimes when I don't want to write. That's right. I write to get right. And through the pen, I see the light. And the other thing that I do, and I pray before I write. That's why things just fall out of me, I think. So your spirituality is the mortar and the fireplace, my friends, is the keystone that holds everything else and that holds you together. And sometimes defining it is elusive, but I do really like this, this fireplace analogy. And when you think about how the other thing about the fireplace and the fireplace being spirituality, what I do with my spirituality, including this Sunday morning message and, hashtag Sacred Sundays with Kelly, whatever. When you light the fire, smoke goes up through the chimney, right? And this is a very Native American belief, right? That things travel in the smoke, and the smoke goes up to the goddess, right? Smoke and fire are offerings that travel to the heavens. And the goddess doesn't just live in the heavens, she is in everything. But one of the places she is in the heavens, right? So my spirituality and the things that I create as a result of my love for her and my creativity, which is a gift of her grace, goes up through the fireplace and is returned to her, because as I've mentioned before, everything I do, including this, is for her. So what are the gifts of your spirituality that you can put in the fireplace today and give to her? So that's what I want you to think about when you leave here today, and when you turn off your computer, or at least when you navigate away from me. So with that, think about your spirituality and how your spirituality with the goddess is a feedback loop, right? Your spirituality connects you to her, and she connects to you and gives you your gifts. And your spirituality creates whatever it creates in you, and whatever you create is a gift to her. And it's this ongoing cycle, as long as you nourish it with prayer and meditation and journaling and service and whatever else you do to keep spiritually healthy. Because it's the whole package, my friends. Body, mind, and spirit. And though spirituality may be elusive, we know that it's the mortar. So, okay. I'm gonna do the after chat with you. And until next time, may the peace and the love of the goddess be with you.
If you want more of the Girlfriend God, you can check out the Girlfriend God podcast or the Maud series. All of that is right here on the Girlfriend God YouTube channel, or you can find the Girlfriend God on other social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And the podcast is right here on YouTube, also available on Overcast, Spotify, iTunes, or wherever else you get your podcast streaming fix. The Girlfriend